Another day, another story. Hello everyone and welcome to my channel, where I share interesting and informative videos on various topics. Today, I'm going to talk about the Cold War era, which was a period of intense rivalry and competition between the United States and the Soviet Union and their respective allies from the end of World War II in 1945 until the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991. The Cold War era was one of the most significant and influential events in modern history, as it shaped the world order, the balance of power, and the development of science, technology, culture, and society. In this video, I will give you a brief overview of the main causes, features, and consequences of the Cold War era, as well as some of the key events that happened during this time. The Cold War era began after World War II, when the two victorious allies, the United States and the Soviet Union, emerged as the world's superpowers with different political and economic systems and ideologies. The United States was a capitalist democracy that promoted free markets, individual rights, and liberal values. The Soviet Union was a communist dictatorship that advocated state control, collective ownership, and socialist ideals. The two superpowers had different visions for the post-war world order and clashed over various issues such as the division of Germany, the reconstruction of Europe, the spread of nuclear weapons, and the support for nationalist movements in Asia, Africa, and Latin America. The Cold War era was characterized by a state of constant tension and hostility between the two superpowers and their allies, which formed two opposing blocs: NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, led by the United States, and Warsaw Pact, led by the Soviet Union. The two blocs competed for global influence and dominance in various arenas such as military, economic, diplomatic, ideological, cultural, and scientific. The Cold War era was also marked by a series of crises and conflicts that threatened to escalate into a full-scale war between the two superpowers. Some of these crises and conflicts included the Berlin Blockade, 1948-1949, the Soviet Union blocked all land and water access to West Berlin, which was controlled by the Western Allies, the United States, Britain, and France, in an attempt to force them to abandon their plans to create a separate West German state. The Western Allies responded by airlifting supplies to West Berlin for almost a year until the Soviets lifted the blockade. The Korean War, 1950-1953, North Korea, backed by China and the Soviet Union, invaded South Korea, which was supported by the United Nations, mainly by the United States. The war ended with an armistice that left Korea divided along the 38th parallel to the Cuban Missile Crisis, 1962. The Soviet Union secretly deployed nuclear missiles in Cuba, which was a communist ally close to the United States. The United States discovered the missiles and demanded their removal, leading to a tense standoff that brought the world to the brink of nuclear war. The crisis was resolved peacefully after a series of negotiations that involved a trade of Soviet missiles in Cuba for American missiles in Turkey. The Vietnam War, 1955-1975, South Vietnam, aided by the United States and its allies, fought against North Vietnam, which was supported by China and the Soviet Union. The war was part of a larger conflict known as the Indochina Wars that involved the struggle of the Vietnamese people for independence from French colonial rule and later from communist domination. The war ended with the fall of Saigon and the reunification of Vietnam under a communist regime. The Afghan War, 1979-1989, the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan to prop up its communist ally against a rebellion led by Islamic guerrillas known as Mujahideen. The United States and its allies provided covert aid to the Mujahideen through Pakistan. The war became a costly quagmire for the Soviets that contributed to their economic decline and political instability. The Cold War era also had significant impacts on various aspects of human life and society. The Cold War era stimulated scientific and technological innovations such as space exploration, Sputnik 1, Apollo 11, nuclear energy, atoms for peace, Chernobyl disaster, computers, ENIAC, ARPANET, satellites, Telstar, GPS, rockets, V2, Saturn V, missiles, ICBM, cruise missile, radar, chain home, AWACS, lasers, maser, Star Wars program, etc. The Cold War era also influenced cultural and artistic expressions such as literature, Animal Farm, Dr. Zhivago, music, rock and roll, the Beatles, cinema, James Bond, Dr. Strangelove, television, I Love Lucy, Moss H, sports, Olympics, Miracle on Ice, etc. The Cold War era also affected social and political movements such as civil rights, Martin Luther King Jr., Nelson Mandela, feminism, Betty Friedan, Gloria Steinem, environmentalism, Rachel Carson, Greenpeace, human rights, Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Helsinki Accords, etc. The Cold War era ended in 1991 with the collapse of the Soviet Union and its communist regime. The end of the Cold War era was brought about by various factors such as internal reforms initiated by Mikhail Gorbachev, perestroika and glasnost, external pressures from Ronald Reagan's policies, Star Wars program and strategic defense initiative, economic difficulties faced by the Soviet Union due to its military spending and inefficient system, political unrests and nationalist demands from its satellite states in Eastern Europe. Solidarity movement in Poland, Velvet Revolution in Czechoslovakia, fall of Berlin Wall in Germany, etc., and international cooperation between the United States and the Soviet Union on issues such as arms control, human rights, and global security. The end of the Cold War era marked the beginning of a new era in world history, characterized by the emergence of a multipolar world order, the rise of new powers such as China, India, and the European Union, the challenges of globalization, terrorism, climate change, and cyber warfare, and the opportunities for peace, democracy, and development. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something new about the Cold War era. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. Thank you for watching and see you next time.